The movie opens with a couple, Robin and Daniel, who have spent years trying to have a child without success. After countless failed attempts, they make the emotional decision to adopt. One day, they visit a local orphanage. The director of the facility greets them warmly and listens to their story. After a thoughtful conversation, she recommends a 9-year-old girl named Kathelia, an orphan who hasn't spoken a word since she was brought in. Robin and Daniel, moved by her quiet presence, don't ask many questions. They feel an instant connection and decide to bring her home that very day. There's excitement and nervous energy as they arrive at the house, while Kathelia silently takes in her new surroundings with wide, curious eyes. Later, Robin pulls Daniel aside and leads him to a special room they had prepared years ago, waiting for the child they had always dreamed of. Kathelia's eyes light up as she enters. The room is filled with toys, including vintage dolls that once belonged to Robin herself when she was Kathelia's age. For a brief moment, everything feels perfect. The family shares a quiet joy. Robin even starts a light-hearted conversation with Kathelia, asking if she likes vegetables, trying to connect with her in small ways. Then, out of nowhere, Robin's phone rings. It's her mother. The tone shifts as Robin listens. Her mother warns her. She's found disturbing information online about Kathelia. She claims the girl isn't just quiet, she's dangerous. But Robin refuses to believe it. Later, Robin prepares lunch and brings it out to Daniel and Kathelia, who are enjoying the backyard sunshine. But as they begin to eat, something strange happens. The food is spoiled, despite being freshly prepared. Concerned, Daniel checks the fridge, thinking it might be malfunctioning, but everything seems to be working just fine. A sense of unease begins to settle over the house. Something is off. Afterward, Robin tried to comfort the little girl right away. She stood nearby, watching her closely, but the sudden attention startled the child. As Robin gently approached, she worked to gain the girl's trust. It was then revealed that Robin had suffered the devastating loss of 4 children in her past. That night, a bond seemed to grow between Robin and Kathelia. Before leaving, Robin gave her a small stuffed animal, telling her it would keep her company. Later that night, long after everyone had gone to bed, Kathelia quietly slipped out of her room. She crept into the kitchen and took a knife from the drawer. Outside, in the backyard near the pool, something was now floating in the water, its shape unclear. The next morning, Daniel stepped outside with his coffee, enjoying the early sunlight. But as he glanced toward the pool, he noticed something off. There was a strange beneath the surface. As he stared longer, he started to suspect what it might be. Concerned, he went to tell his wife. When he mentioned it, her first response was to ask, "Where are the kitchen knives?" He told her honestly, he had no idea. Robin, unfazed, headed off to work like it was any normal day. Later on, Daniel sat in his home office, going over his thoughts and quietly researching what he had seen that morning. He was deep in thought when Kathelia walked in. Since it had been her very first night in the house, Daniel asked if anything strange had happened. She didn't answer the question directly. Instead, Kathelia became fascinated by the medical tools and instruments scattered around the room. She reached for them, curious, but Daniel gently stopped her, saying they weren't toys. Later that day, Kathelia was outside playing. As she played, she came across a girl named Fiona, a child with special needs who had wandered nearby. On her first day, Kathelia seemed to be fitting in surprisingly well. She and the others were already acting like friends. Meanwhile, inside the house, Daniel was straightening up one of the rooms when something unexpected happened. A blanket of Kathelia's slipped off the bed, and from underneath it, a kitchen knife clattered to the floor. The same one that had gone missing the night before. Outside, Kathelia had wandered into the yard and happened to run into Fiona's mom, one of the neighbors. They struck up a casual conversation, which quickly turned toward Kathelia and her background. Then, something strange happened. Fiona's looking off toward the side of the house and said quietly, "There's no one standing there. I just see the back door." After that, Robin began growing increasingly suspicious of Fiona and her mother. They seemed guarded, like they were hiding something about their lives. When Robin brought up her concerns, Daniel brushed them off. "She's just a single mom doing her best to raise Fiona," he said. Trying to ease her worries, Daniel showed Robin the missing kitchen knife. When she asked where he'd found it, his answer made her uneasy. "I found it in Kathelia's room." That same night, long after the house had gone quiet, Kathelia slipped out of her room again. This time, she entered Daniel's office and carefully took one of the tools from his shelf, almost as if she knew exactly what she was looking for. The next morning, while Robin was tidying up, she heard faint, unsettling whispers echoing through the hallway. She followed the sound, searching room to room, but found nothing out of place. Still, an eerie feeling lingered, and she couldn't shake the suspicion that Kathelia was somehow connected. Later, as Robin stood outside having a cigarette, Daniel came over to check on her. When he asked what was wrong, she opened up. "There's something not right about this house," she said quietly. "I felt it ever since Kathelia got here. Like something's pressing down on me." Daniel didn't seem completely convinced, but he took her hand and gave a reassuring smile. "Hey, I'm on your side. Always. Maybe we just need something to break the tension. What if we throw a little get-together? Something light, nothing big." The next day was the neighborhood block party, and Kathelia was visibly on edge. She'd never been around such a large crowd, and it showed. When Robin tried to introduce her to a few people, Kathelia barely spoke. Things took a turn when a girl nearby started whispering rumors, suggesting that the story behind Kathelia's parents' deaths didn't add up. Kathelia snapped. In a flash of rage, she lunged at the girl, knocking her to the ground. Her strength was shocking, almost unnatural, as if something inside her had taken over. Robin rushed in and pulled her away just in time. That night, while the others were unwinding by the pool again, Kathelia quietly slipped out of the house. No one noticed as she wandered into the dark woods, like she was being drawn by something only she could sense. Then, she stepped on something sharp. Startled, she lost her footing and fell, striking her head against a rock. Just as Robin and Daniel were getting ready for bed, Daniel noticed Kathelia wasn't in her room. Panic set in. They searched the house, calling her name. Then, outside, Daniel found her collapsed on the ground, unconscious. He scooped her up and carried her inside without a word. That same night, Kathelia had a haunting nightmare. She saw her father being attacked, someone trying to rip her away from his arms. Frozen in terror, she watched as the stranger murdered her father right before her eyes. The following morning, just after sunrise, there was a knock at the door. Daniel opened it to find Fiona, bright-eyed and insistent. "Can Kathelia come play?" she asked eagerly. Daniel hesitated, about to say no, but before he could respond, Fiona pushed past him and walked straight into the house. Soon after, the two girls were playing together. Daniel stayed nearby for a moment, keeping an eye on them. But as he turned to leave, Fiona suddenly said something that stopped him. "The monsters are coming. Not just anywhere. They're coming here, to this house." Daniel chuckled, thinking it was just a child's imagination. "You girls, have fun." But later, while the girls played alone, Fiona leaned in close to Kathelia and whispering, "Do you know about the monsters? The ones that hurt people?" she asked again and again, her voice quieter each time. Then, without warning, Fiona bolted out of the room, terrified. Elsewhere in the house, Robin and Daniel were cleaning when Robin stumbled upon something chilling. While tidying up Kathelia's room, she found a stash of Daniel's hidden under the bed. Startled, they looked at each other in silence. They had no idea she had taken them. Concerned, they scheduled an appointment with a child psychologist, hoping to understand what was going on. The doctor gently asked Kathelia to draw a picture of her parents, a simple, therapeutic exercise to help gauge her emotions. But when she finished, the drawing revealed something far from simple. Disturbing image. Robin backed away, her face pale. She rushed to the bathroom, heart racing. Inside, she leaned over the sink and began to vomit. And then, as she caught her reflection in the mirror, a strange, unsettling smile formed across her face. After leaving the doctor's office, they took Kathelia to a local children's play area, hoping some laughter and fun might lift her spirits. But as Daniel walked over to check in on his wife, Robin didn't hesitate. She looked him in the eyes. "We made a mistake bringing that girl into our home, and today, I'm convinced, she's a danger to both of us." Daniel tried to reason with her, his voice calm. "She's just a little girl, Robin. She needs time. She's still grieving her parents." But Robin wasn't listening anymore. She turned away, unwilling to hear another word. The argument between Robin and Daniel took an unexpected turn when Robin revealed she was pregnant, a surprise after many years of trying. Daniel was overwhelmed with joy. The next morning, Robin was resting in bed alone, while Daniel stepped outside to grab a cup of coffee. But then, Kathelia entered the room, her eyes fixed on Robin. Without saying a word, she began staring intensely at Robin's belly. Suddenly, she lunged at her. Robin screamed as Kathelia attacked her stomach, and from outside, Daniel heard the commotion. He ran inside and found Kathelia on top of Robin, clawing at her abdomen. He pulled the girl away, just in time. Shaken and in pain, Robin cried out, "She's dangerous! I want her out of this house now! She's a threat to our baby!" Daniel, disturbed by what he had just witnessed, tried to speak to Kathelia calmly, telling her that what she had done was completely unacceptable. Kathelia, clearly distressed, began packing her clothes into a bag. But Daniel stopped her. "I'm not your enemy," he told her. "You're not alone. We want to give you a real chance at a happy life, but I have to protect my wife and child. Please, just stop all of this." In response, Kathelia pulled out a note with an address written on it and handed it to Daniel. Later that day, Daniel and Kathelia drove to the address. When they knocked, no one answered. So Daniel walked around to the back and found a door slightly open. Inside, the house was dimly lit and strangely quiet. From within, a woman's voice called out, asking who was there. When he explained, she let him in. Meanwhile, back at home, Robin was in the kitchen when she suddenly noticed a pool of blood. She froze. Panic flooded her as she assumed she might be miscarrying. Back at the strange house, Daniel was stunned. The woman who greeted him was visibly injured, with a deep wound on her knee. As they spoke, Daniel told her about Kathelia. "Yes," the woman replied. "I know her, but she's not just any child. She's dangerous." When he asked if Kathelia had done this, she nodded. Suddenly, they both heard a noise. Kathelia had quietly entered the house. She lunged at the woman again, but this time, the restraints held her back. The woman's husband appeared, yelling to Daniel, "She's not a child, she's something else. Get her away from here." Outside, the man pulled Daniel aside and said, "She's not normal. I don't know what she is, but if you care about your family, you need to get them far away from her, fast." Daniel, who had always defended Kathelia, stood silently. For the first time, doubt crept in. As they drove away, Daniel looked over at Kathelia and said gently, "Don't listen to what people say about you. You're a good girl, I know that." But before he could say more, the woman from earlier suddenly appeared again, trying to stop them. Daniel hit the gas, narrowly avoiding her, and sped off. When they arrived home, Robin greeted them with a calmer tone, telling Daniel, "I felt the baby move. Everything's okay now. Ready to raise this child with love." The next day, Robin visited a medical clinic for a prenatal checkup. The doctor examined her and then quietly showed her something inside a small glass vial. As the doctor stared at it through a microscope, a look of concern crossed her face. She suggested that Robin go to the main hospital for further testing, but Robin refused, repeating firmly, "My baby is healthy. I'm not doing more tests." She left the office, visibly upset. Back at home, Robin, now angry and suspicious, began searching the house. She was certain someone was responsible for everything strange happening around her, especially Kathelia. She stormed into Kathelia's room, stood in the doorway, and snapped, "We don't need you anymore. My baby is enough. From now on, you're not part of this." Kathelia, shocked and hurt, lashed out violently. A struggle broke out, managed to escape her grip, running from the house in fear. She fled to Fiona's home, hiding inside. In one of the dim, cluttered rooms, she stumbled upon Fiona quietly playing with what she called her friends. But these friends were insects, crawling across the floor. Fiona smiled and whispered to Kathelia, "They talk to me. You can hear them too if you listen." Suddenly, Fiona picked up a... It hit Kathelia's head. Panic erupted. An ambulance was called, and Kathelia was rushed to the hospital. The results of the scan showed nothing life-threatening, but the doctor noticed something strange. There's an old injury in her skull, one that should have been treated long ago. But what's odd, he said, is that the bone structure around it has adapted. It's not normal. We'll need to run further tests. That night, after putting Kathelia to bed, Daniel returned to speak with Robin. He told her Kathelia was resting, but Robin didn't respond warmly. "I don't care," she said. "We finally have a child that's ours. I don't want her here anymore." Daniel looked at her closely, concerned by her tone. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine," she replied. But her eyes told a different story. The next morning, Daniel was already on edge when he spotted Fiona standing alone, watching their house from a distance. Before he could approach her, she turned and disappeared. Moments later, Daniel noticed a stuffed toy lying nearby, the same toy Kathelia always kept close. Feeling uneasy, he called the hospital. Daniel and Kathelia returned to the hospital, where the doctor met them with a serious expression. He explained the results of Kathelia's recent CT scan. There's evidence of an old injury, but that's not all. The scan shows something extremely rare. While in the womb, Kathelia had a twin, but that twin didn't survive. Daniel's eyes widened. The surviving fetus, Kathelia, absorbed her twin. What's left of that twin is still inside her. Later that evening, Daniel returned home, feeling the weight of everything he had just learned. As he stepped into the house, something felt off. There was blood smeared near the hallway, and when he followed the trail, he found Robin standing in the nursery, holding something strange. "I'm not going to the hospital," she said when Daniel asked. "Don't you see? This is the time our daughter was meant to be born." Daniel's heart sank as he looked down and saw a creature in her arms. He was frozen in shock. Outside, in the car, Kathelia sat quietly and showed Daniel a stuffed doll. "Fiona said she can help us." Daniel, desperate for answers, drove to Fiona's house. But when he brought up Kathelia's injury and the past incident, Lizzie quickly grew defensive. "She's just a child." But as emotions calmed, Lizzie revealed something personal. "Fiona, she's been different since birth. She sees things, both worlds." Daniel asked Fiona directly, "What do you see now?" Fiona looked up at him. "The monster. It's not outside your home. It's with your wife." Terrified, but determined, Daniel begged Fiona for help. She agreed. Together, they set up a ritual space. Fiona lit candles and began speaking in a language.
Fiona's voice changed and she went still. Then she spoke clearly.
"The only way to end this is to remove what's inside Kathelia's head." Meanwhile, on the other side, Robin's doctor arrives. When no one answers the door, she cautiously steps inside, hoping to discuss something important about the child. But the moment she enters, she senses something is terribly wrong. Robin, who is now transformed into something monstrous, silently watches her. By the eerie atmosphere, the doctor decides to leave, only to be met at the door by Daniel. At that exact moment, Robin appears with a pair of scissors and launches a violent attack. She stabs Daniel in the stomach and then turns on the doctor, striking her repeatedly without mercy. Robin then begins hunting for Kathelia, who's managed to hide inside a closet. Unfortunately, Robin finds her and drags her toward the backyard pool, intending to drown her. Just as she's about to force Kathelia into the water, Lizzie and her daughter arrive in the nick of time. Inside the house, they find Daniel barely alive and losing a lot of blood. Lizzie calls the police immediately. But before help can arrive, Robin attacks once more. In the end, she is killed during the struggle. Later, Fiona and Kathelia barricade themselves inside a room. Robin had tried to break in and kill them both. Realizing how dire the situation is, Fiona urges Daniel to do something unthinkable: remove the parasitic twin embedded in Kathelia's head to end the horror once and for all. Though Daniel hesitates, Kathelia gives him a nod, allowing him to proceed. As he begins the painful process, Robin screams in agony, feeling every moment of it. Suddenly, Daniel stops, overcome with emotion. Believing Kathelia has died, he collapses, sobbing over her. But then, in a shocking twist, the parasite bursts out of Kathelia's skull. She turns to Daniel and calmly says, "Dad." Without hesitation, Kathelia grabs the creature, her parasitic twin, by the neck and snaps it, finally putting an end to the nightmare. In the final scene, we see Robin, but something is still moving inside her. And the movie ends here.